Hi everyone, Oritasho here, and today I wanted to do a tutorial on how to draw a person in front view. I've been requested this a lot from a few different people on my Tumblr and here on YouTube even, and just some friends that I have on Skype and everything like that who are wanting to get better at art or get into it but not sure how to go about it, and not sure, like, haven't been able to find tutorials and everything that works for them. So I thought I would do one, and hopefully it can help out somebody. It's a bit long. I'm so sorry about that. So you'll have to bear with me. I promise that in the future I will make a shorter tutorial, simplifying it a little bit more. When I get better. I'm still not the best. I'm still fairly slow and everything like that, and I'm ever growing and learning myself. What tutorial work or what technique works for me now might not work for me in a year, but I'm comfortable with where I am at. As far as like what I've learned, obviously I still want to get better and everything like that. So if you want to learn how to create a well-proportioned head, a face, a character, keep watching and you might learn something. I hope you learn something. Alright, let's get started. So first off, there is one thing that you guys should know about head. Often people assume that, or actually here, maybe we'll go. So I drew up this skull to show you guys essentially a mistake that a lot of people make. And not necessarily, you don't have to do it the way I'm doing it. I just noticed that since I started doing this, my heads have looked a lot better, and the hair fits on them a lot more naturally and everything like that. I draw more semi-realistic, but even this technique you can use for anime-style realism, exaggerated, regular cartoons. It's just once you know the basics of things, you can change proportions around. All right. So often when people look at the head, especially in the front view or the side view, they assume it's just a circle. But what a lot of people don't understand is the skull is made up of two parts. It's the top area and then the jaw. The jaw area is the only part of the skull that actually moves. Everything else is controlled by muscle. Even the jaw is controlled by muscle, but I'm saying it's the only thing that has joints or a hinge and that can actually move separately from the rest of the skull. Another thing that people don't realize is the skull isn't round necessarily. At the top it is, but at the sides we have these divots that come in. And these are very important in our anatomy and everything like that. If so, our faces would be completely different. We wouldn't have our cheekbones. Chances are our eyebrows wouldn't be as prominent or anything like that. And most of us would have very rounded faces, and our ears wouldn't sit properly on us either. So I actually put a circle around here, and if you look at it carefully, you will see that it's a perfectly round circle. I made it with the ellipse tool, which is this little tool right here. It comes in very handy if you are not the most confident in drawing a circle by yourself. And it's not cheating if you use it as, like, you know, your red line, which is essentially what you would do in digital art before, and traditional art before you made your final draft or the draft after this. So anyway, if you look at it carefully, you'll see that the circle fits the top of the head just fine. It comes around and it goes just underneath the nose, the nostrils. But if you look at this carefully, you'll see that there's actually divots right there. So if I remove the skull, you'll see that it actually cuts it off. So your circle, your perfect circle, becomes a little less perfect when you look at it. But it matches the skull more appropriately. And that's essentially what I did here. Now, it's not as straight cut as I put it in the red one, but in the pink, you'll see that this is essentially what you would do for the top of the head. So let's get started on the initial lesson. Now, give me a second. I am going to try to do a perfect circle, or a circle that is appropriate. Because don't get me wrong, I like using the ellipse tool, but it's not something that you want to rely on necessarily. And I know sometimes when you use too perfect of a circle, you actually run into some problems. The face can get a little too fat. Because also, here's the thing, is our skulls are not perfect. Everybody has a different skull shape depending on your... The only people who necessarily would have a very round skull are babies because they're underdeveloped. Especially if you want to make a character that has a long face, using the ellipse tool might hinder you a little bit. Anyway, so essentially what I explained before is you want to make the top of the head. Now, you want to divide the face as evenly as you can. I'm trying to get this straight. What's wrong with me? So what you want to do is you want to divide the face in half. At the bottom here, at the bottom line, depending on how long you want to make your character's face or their age or ethnicity or anything like that, depends on how long you want to drop, bring the line down. I would say bring it down 1/3 to have your just a basic face. And like I said before with the circle, what you want to do is just follow the lines of the circle and just indent it a little bit. And that'll help you with what I explained earlier. Now from here, you want to divide the face in the center of the circle you created as best as you can. Don't make it too high or too low, because what's going to happen is either your eyes are going to sit too high on the head and you're not going to have enough room for the hairline, and then the whole face is going to be weird, or else it's going to look weird and your characters are going to have a very big forehead. I mean, if that's what you're going for, go for it, but I find best for any character, even if you're going to try, even if you want to try different details, different features and everything like that, it's best to just go in the middle as best as you can. I would say it's better to go a little lower than higher if you can, but it's up to you. There we go. Now I'm going to go into detail for a second about some of this. So when you break the face into 3 areas, I know I haven't quite made the jaw yet or anything like that, but area 1, I always reserve it for the hairline, the eyebrows, and sometimes the eyelids. Part 2, or area 2, I reserve for the eyes, the cheekbones, the nose, essentially. Depending on how long or short the nose is, I may add the felgulum, I cannot remember how to say it, but it's that little indent between your nose and your upper lip. And then part 3 is usually reserved for the lips, the chin, and the jaw also comes off between part 1 and 2. Once again, depending on the character and their features and everything like that. But that's normally what I do. The ear also, what I mostly feel comfortable with, is starting, the top will be in area 2 and it will work its way down to area 3. So that's just something to keep in mind because it'll just help you have a much more even face. I'm just going to go ahead and make a jaw. I'm just going to go ahead and make a jaw. Now I'm just going to do a male character because I'm much better at them than I am females. I can draw female characters, it's just it takes me a longer time because I'm more familiar with a more masculine face. So don't ever make, well, depending on the character, if you want to make a more, let's say, an aggressive male or an older male, you will make the jaw wider and everything like that. Or if you're looking for a more feminine character, you will take away some of the jaw and everything like that, and you can make it more rounded. For now, I'm just going to make a basic young adult male, so probably in his 20s. So his jaw will be, fairly average, I would say. At this point, I know it looks sloppy and everything like that, but when I go into detail, it'll get better. So one thing I have noticed from a lot of tutorials is people will actually suggest, and it's not wrong by any means, just I know anytime I have done it, I've noticed that I never have enough room for the forehead, and growing up, that was my biggest problem, is I never left enough room for the forehead. So when I would make the hair, it would look very odd. because we all have foreheads, and then if you don't leave enough room for the hairline and the eyebrows and the eyes, things are just going to look smushed and not as appealing. So actually, whereas a lot of people use this for the eyes, I use it for the eyebrows. And I know this is kind of ass backwards, but I find creating the eyebrows is much, it helps me keep things in perspective a lot better than when I start with the eyes. Same with, like, often I'll do the nose first, because I can get the shape of the nose. And I'll do a video explaining how to do all these features and everything like that beforehand, or in a later date, because I know, like, drawing the nose and eyes and everything like that can be hard. Anyway, from here, the reason why I do the nose in the center like this is because it helps a placement. Because then you can know, like, oh, hey, the eyes will be connected here, and this will be here, and the lips will start to form. So you guys bear with me. I'm just going to make the eyes. I have a tendency, when I draw front view, is I tend to make the eyes kind of too big. So I do go in later and change the size of some of the features. Now, he doesn't look very good right now, but once I, fix it all up, he'll look a lot better once I get into adding the detail and go over it a bit more. I actually made the eyes a little too far, so I'm just going to fix that. And be careful when you're drawing, not to make the eyes too far apart or too close together, unless the character calls for it, obviously, or if it's your style. But I'm just saying in general. And then from here, I'll just make some eyelids, just so I know what I'm doing later on. Now, right here, the line that comes through, or the circle line that comes through the jaw that we originally created, you can use this as the line for the mouth, and it will keep things in proportion. You may want to make the nose a bit shorter. Like I said, it's not like you got to copy me step for step. It's just giving you some, I'm just giving you some guidelines. So anyway, I'm gonna do the lips. He's turning out to be a little more feminine than I wanted him, so I may change things up in the final draft. But as you can see, the face is starting to look like a face. I'm going to make this just a little bit smaller. Just because then I can feel more comfortable with it. Okay. So essentially you have the face, basically. What you want to do next is, once again, hairline to me is really important just because I struggled so much with it growing up, and when I finally learned to fix it, it just made hair, like drawing hair, way easier, because I used to draw hair and I would have a hard time figuring out why it looked the way it is, and I would struggle for hours on it and everything like that. I still have a hard time with hair just because I'm very picky. But if I can help someone make it way easier, that would make me very happy, because I wish I would have had somebody to help me when I was younger, or I wish I would have found a way to fix it when I was younger. So the hairline, you don't have to go crazy and make it like that. Some people do, but I wouldn't. I would say I would say if you break this part of the head into 3 areas, you want to bring it down 1/3 of the way. And hairlines can vary. They can be straight. They can curve like this. I have to make it curving. Anyway, and you know, it's trial and error with the hairline. Now ears for me was a real big problem. You know what I'm gonna do? Just to save me a little bit, because it's distracting me. I'm gonna just erase a little bit of this, so bear with me for a second. If you guys remember what I said before, growing up, I used to make the ears too low on the head, and that can look funny. So what I tend to do is I will follow the circle, or the bottom circle from the initial, the bottom line from the initial circle that we made, and I will draw it upwards. Because if you actually look at your ear, and like when it comes in and it meets it meets your cheek, it meets your face, if you follow it down, it actually curves to your cheekbone. And this should be the case for most people, but yeah, it'll curve onto your cheekbone, which is another good thing to keep in mind, because some people will just put the ears on like this, and it's like, I mean, it can pass, but if you're trying to draw a little more realistically. And just to save time, I hope you guys don't mind, I am just going to copy and paste the ear on the other side. Now these ears come out a little bit. I'll probably fix that later on. And once again, I am going to make the face just a little bit smaller. Because I'm still going through trial and error, and I'm always learning too. Now the neck. Depending on your style, depending on the age of the character, and all those kind of things, is going to determine how the neck will look. If you're having an older male character, you might want to have him have a thicker neck. If he's going to be very muscular. If you are having a more feminine character, once again, remember this is a male character, so I'm only describing for male necks. He may be a little smaller, and you notice that the neck does really change the face itself compared to like when it was super thick. I'm gonna make his neck a little bit longer, I guess, and not too thick. I will do a separate tutorial on necks, just because, oh my god, did I have a hard time with necks. And once you learn the anatomy of a neck, man, is it easier. But especially for male characters, male necks have much more detail than female necks. Men have Adam's apples and everything like that. So when you're drawing a male, remember to throw in a little bit of that detail. I'm just going to put the traps here, which is the muscle that is connected along your back, your shoulders, and partially to your collarbone. Not going to go too much detail for shoulders and everything like that. I'll do that in a tutorial when I'm actually like showing you the anatomy of the body and everything like that. So we have the basics of the face right here. Fun thing that you can do if you are drawing digitally, which I don't think should necessarily be frowned upon, but you can copy the eye and paste it on the other side. And that'll help things seem a little more in proportion. I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm fairly happy with how his eye looked. And actually, you know what? I might do it for this eye because I like this eye a little better. Now keep in mind, like I said in the beginning, or keep in mind, I can't talk. Keep in mind, like, not necessarily everything needs to be kept in proportion. Because sometimes then it'll look too perfect, and that in itself can be bad too. Anyway, So you can see that I have the basic face going on here. Now, everything's really primitive, but this is just the rough draft. I'm going to put this in time lapse while I put some of the detail in. And then I'll come back and talk, and I'll probably put it in time lapse once more while I make out the details of everything. Okay, so I'm back. I added some of the detail and everything like that. Now, as you can see, I gave him a little bit of eye bags. I changed his eyebrows. I made the features just a little bit smaller. So I shifted a couple things around. I was trying to make the face a little more defined and everything like that. So yeah. So now what I am going to do is, once again, I'm going to go into time lapse. And I'm going to give him the details. Actually, you know what? I will quickly do a little bit of his hair. Now, this definitely won't be a tutorial because hair in itself should be its own tutorial. Also, I made the head just a little bit longer just to give me some peace of mind. Just because I felt like it was a little bit short. Once again, trial and error. You can fix things as you go along. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and do his hair really quickly. Now I used to do my hair very wispy and in single strand, and as much as I loved doing that because it just made everything look so elegant and everything, it's really hard to color unless you're gonna be the kind of person who paints. I'm gonna make this a little thicker. If you're the kind of person who paints when they color, I love cell shading, which is essentially the kind of coloring that they do when they're making anime and cartoons and stuff like that, where they just have like the double shade and then do it in a little more details and everything like that. Looking kind of lopsided. His hair might change after I've done all the details and everything like that. For now, that's how I'm gonna have it. Okay, I'm gonna go in time lapse again, guys. Sorry. Based on what I've recorded, obviously I'm gonna cut this down, but I've been doing this for 47 minutes.
I know you're up. I can feel it now.
So this is what I ended up coming up with. Sorry if it took a while. I wasn't going to color it. I just wanted to give a little bit of depth with the hair and the eyes and everything like that. But see, it's not perfect, but I think you can tell that this is a face, and I would like to say it's pretty even proportioned. I ended up changing the size of his face a little bit, his eyebrows. I changed the lips just because they were making him look very villainous, I think, just because, I know I could probably do a video on this some other time, but, you know, like, wide mouths kind of seem ominous and kind of, like, abnormal, which makes you think of a crazy person and stuff like that. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. It turned out way better than I thought it would. So yeah, I hope that this helped, and I'm so sorry that this video is probably like 40 minutes long and all those kind of things. But I like to think I explained myself properly and everything like that. First video, or first tutorial, so please go easy on me. If you have any requests, comments, or any of those kind of things, leave them in the comments below. I post a lot of my art on Tumblr and Instagram, and I do post reference and tutorials on my Tapastic, and I'll link those down in the description below. So yeah, long time coming. I hope to whoever, to all the people who have requested this from me on my Tumblr and on YouTube and in comments and stuff like that, I really hope that this helped. If not, let me know, and I will try to make a tutorial that is a little more simplified for you guys, and something that's like 5 to 10 minutes long. But I had real fun with this. I promise I'm going to start making tutorials more often because I've really wanted to do it for a long time. So yeah. Once again, just because I do something a certain way doesn't mean that you have to do it, but it's always good to keep an open mind. See you guys next time. Bye.